Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. Today guys, we're going to be diving down into the charts once again to take a look at what has been going on with Bitcoin. We have seen a bit of a pullback overnight and we want to kind of go through what we think is most likely to happen next here with BTC. As we get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap that bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so you are going to be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Right, with all of that said, done, and out of the way, let's jump on down into the desktop, take a look at what is going on here with BTC. Okay, we're going to start things off with our hourly chart, guys. Obviously, this is where we kind of look at what is going on right now, what we would expect to happen in the real short term, okay? We don't tend to go down lower than this. This is pretty much as low as we'd like to go for the obvious reasons. Now, obviously, yesterday I did the video about the flat correction. That seems to have played out very, very nicely. A little bit higher than maybe I was thinking, but you know, it was lower than the A wave, so you can kind of see that one with an expanding flat. However you want to look at it or articulate it, there you go. That's how I've got it drawn up here, but you could also draw this up multiple different ways, entirely up to you. The main thing is that this is the ending position, and we are looking at, you know, some kind of move up here. Now, the other way you can kind of look at this, if I actually do remove that flat correction there, you could count up all of these various different waves and end up with maybe this being your high point and this being an A wave down with a B wave and the C wave to follow. So there's a couple of different ways to kind of look at it. We do look at this right now as an ABC up. And again, if we just expand this a little bit, you can see here that we pushed up from this low bound right up here. We pull back down into this low area with effectively a double bottom, and then we're pushing up here a little bit as well. Now that would, if you go for a 1-to-1 ratio, it would put us going a little bit higher than where we are right now. If I grab that onto there and we move this over, we would expect this to come up to about $44,000. I'll call it exactly because it's a $1 difference here. So that's the kind of the area that's the most probable, but we are up against resistance right here on the 786. And again, that's also an interesting area that we find rejection on normally. So as we think about closing this next hourly candle, and at the point of recording this video, it's about 130, 120. So UTC. So that obviously that does change a little bit. We could potentially push up, see that kind of high come in there. And the other thing that's really important to just note here is whilst we are pushing the price up, we also have the volume decreasing. Okay, so this basically tells you that there isn't a lot of people willing to put in their money into Bitcoin right now, and not many open trades are being, you know, entered at this particular point. And obviously as we have the pull back down here, the volumes were kind of sporadic. They weren't decreasing. There was a little bit of a push towards the end there. So interesting kind of volume. It wasn't definitive direction. And obviously as we kind of got down to this particular middle point right here, the volume had reached really, really low. No one was willing to buy at that point. Sellers got control. And obviously you can see the story here with this kind of flowing back down. So yeah, interesting kind of stuff, what's going on here. So the expectation is a reversal potentially around that $44,000 range. Now, the Stochastic Rsi has gone from the oversold area to the overbought area. So again, that is going to support the move to the downside. So that's the most probable, right? We go up a little bit higher. We might reach the $44,000 threshold. We might not. Looking at it, it looks like it's trying to. So hopefully that kind of reaches that point there. And that's a good strong reversal. The 1-to-1 ratio sticks. And then we look for a bit deeper pullback, right? So that's definitely pretty likely here, but where does that go? There's a couple of, as I said, there's a couple of ways of counting this, right? We could, of course, count this as an A wave down, although it doesn't fit with my flat correction here. It could be an A wave down. We push up into a B wave and then we pull back down lower. And if we were to measure this distance from the bottom of our A wave to the top of our A wave, and transpose that over to where we think our B wave is likely to go, just about here, this then shows us moving us down to about 40,890. So let's just call it $41,000 as a nice round number. It should go a little bit lower than that, but that's kind of the way you're thinking it would go. That obviously runs on the premise that I have done this bit wrong and it's not a flat correction, and we actually just have to count up all the little kind of waves that are inside here, and instead this is an A wave down. Okay, so this scenario of this low point only works if this is not a flat correction, which I think it is. So just bear in mind that that is a target that it could be something that we see. It's just not how I've drawn it here, and I could be wrong admittedly as well. Alternatively, of course, what we actually look for here would be an A wave coming down, if I actually grab hold of that. So an A wave coming down, a bounce, and a C wave. Okay, and it's very possible that there is an ABC that forms here. This is probably the most likely scenario, is it's an ABC coming down. And of course, we pull back down into these lower ranges on the same 1-to-1 ratio. And again, that would actually allow us to also map out a very similar target. Okay, too soon to say though, because we need to see the A wave first. Once we have the A wave, we can just calculate where we think things are likely to go afterwards. So yeah, for Bitcoin right now on the smaller time frames, it's definitely looking like there's a correction that's very much needed. This correction, it isn't a huge correction. It's not, you know, a huge dump on the market going down into crazy lows. This is a nice healthy correction that's very much needed in the space in order to see, you know, all-time highs, right? We want the all-time high, but we do also need to see a nice healthy correction in order to allow the data to reset and allow us to continue to grow. So with that being said, there's something else that's really important about this area here on this chart. As I kind of hinted at yesterday, I think it was, you know, this pattern that you see exchanges that tend to do market makers, and they push the price up, they tend to go sideways, they push it up, you have some kind of consolidation up here, then you pull back down, you have the same kind of pattern going down again. And what you actually look at is this key area, okay, and where this potentially is going to come down to in correction sense. This could basically lead us down a little bit lower than this. So in terms of dollar cost averaging into positions, this is going to be a great place to start your dollar cost averaging, in my opinion. I will be dollar cost averaging around this area here, but do expect us to go down a little bit lower potentially if it is market makers that are creating this particular pattern, and in which case, you know, we look to come down towards this range down here. I don't expect it to go lower than 38k. I've called out 39 in the past. These are the areas where I think you then actually start to see a massive spike to the upside. Okay, so a big correction would have finished at that point, and you would normally see a lot of wave counts in here, specifically on the smaller time frames, but it'd be more visible on the larger ones. So yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at here. First kind of dollar cost averaging position, move down, dollar cost average, finally accumulate, I should say, and then move on out, and we potentially just blast off from there. So interesting kind of pattern forming here, but I do see this as an ABC move, and not so much this one, but more that I see us with an ABC taking us down towards this kind of range down here. So it's probably going to be a little bit lower than that. We'll just pop that over there and there, for example, something to that effect. Over the weekend, maybe beginning of next week. You know, timing is the hardest thing to gauge. No one's ever going to get that right. But once you're down here, I would expect to see something like we saw previously, in the sense of just lots of kind of sideways trading or flat correction of some kind, and then, you know, maybe even a triangle, and then of course, you know, that last major kind of push down into those ranges. I don't think necessarily it's going to go past 39, but you know, anything is possible here in crypto. But this would basically finish and complete the pattern, and then you would see, you know, a very significant, potentially impulsive move at that point to the upside into new all-time highs. Again, you know, too soon to really say. This is a lot of speculative kind of thinking, but the pattern has been seen historically, and we should be very mindful of it. I do think, though, we are likely to see a bigger ABC move to the downside, at least coming down into this kind of $41,000 range on our smaller time frame. And obviously, when we take a look at this from a lot of different areas, this is the area that we really want to be kind of focusing in on. And of course, you know, we can see where that kind of relates to across the timeline there as well. So yeah, that's looking pretty good and looking pretty interesting. Let's actually now jump up into our 4. Actually, before we do that, that Stochastic Rsi, of course, is overbought, so that supports this entire move to the downside. We are looking for corrective action. So this first A wave would basically be taking us down into this oversold area. We then have the B wave that takes us up into an overbought area, and then we have the final C wave taking us back down into the oversold area. Okay, so I imagine that we end up with something that looks like that across this ABC move on our hourly chart. Now, as we come up into our 4-hourly chart, we obviously have a really low Stochastic Rsi. This supports a move to the upside. Okay, so as we kind of zoom in here, and I often say this, the macro trends outweigh that of the micro trends. Okay, so your micro trends make your macro trends, and the macro trends are stronger than your micro trends. So anything that happens on the hourly effectively builds our 4-hourly chart. Now, the fact that we're oversold here, and we are likely to see, you know, a pullback on our hourly chart, this is indicating it's not going to be a massive move. Okay, this potentially coming down towards $42,000, a little bit lower than we were previously, could be supported here. Like I said previously, the price is moving up here and the volume is decreasing. No one is really wanting to get too heavily involved here with Bitcoin right now, so that's going to support a potential move to the downside. Sellers will have control at this point, so do watch out for that. The Stochastic Rsi has been down here for a while, but it's not uncommon, and you can see this thing move rapidly as well without actually doing anything to the price. So we could see the little kind of blip like we saw previously, but nothing too major will actually come from it. So just watch this one. It can, of course, push us a little bit higher, but the data at the moment isn't indicating that there's any buyers here actually willing to do this right now. So, and do watch out for that. We are heavily oversold. We can still stay down here for quite some time yet. As we come into our 8 hourly, we've only just really entered this area over the last few candles. Again, as that price is pushing up, these volumes are dropping down, as you would kind of expect. And therefore, you know, we need to be very aware that yes, there's a push to the upside due here on our 8 hourly chart, but it might not happen for a while just yet. We've only really just entered this area on our 8 hourly chart. Until we start to see some kind of decent volume coming in on the way up, you know, this is going to run out of steam pretty quickly. You can see it's trying to fight that 786 right now. So obviously, as I said, right, that's the hourly chart needs to come down, the 4 hourly needs to go up, the 8 hourly needs to go up, but the one that's really driving this right now, our daily chart needs to come down. So as of course we lower the Stochastic Rsi and we lower the price for Bitcoin on our daily chart, that's going to have an impact on what is going on with the 8 hourly, the 4 hourly, and the hourly chart. Okay, so let's be quite aware that you know, a move to the downside is supported at the macro level of the hourly, but it's not supported by what is going on with the 4 hourly or the 8 hourly. Only the hourly and the daily are saying that we need to see a correction. But that is the very most likely kind of scenario here. So we obviously had the flat correction. We look for the push up. We've seen that, but we haven't really seen the ABC to the downside. So as I kind of zoom out here, you know, we have this real big push to the upside, but no decent correction has yet actually been materializing here on the daily chart. So we are looking for a pretty big pullback, and so it kind of does highlight that $39,000 range, potentially a little bit lower, but not too much lower than that. And you know, there we are going to be massively pushing to the upside. So where we have these 5 waves to the upside like this, a decent ABC should be seen as our second wave. So effectively, if I actually zoom out on this just a little bit, what we actually potentially are looking at here, if this is the bottom, which I do believe it is, then actually what we're looking for is a big wave 1 down into a wave 2, let's call it $39,000, and then a big wave 3 and 4 and 5, right? So wave 3 takes us, you know, up into new all-time highs, for example, and again, you know, that might be actually just falling a little bit short. Maybe it comes in about here somewhere. A wave 4 brings us down a little bit, and then wave 5 goes on and actually takes us into those all-time highs, right? And in order for this to kind of play out, you need to obviously see these pullbacks. There's 2 of them, and they basically just allow our data to reset and allow the market to cool off, allow profits to be taken, and we just aren't seeing this just yet. So this is kind of what we want. We want this impulsive move to materialize on our daily chart, but we just are not there yet. Okay, we have potentially 5 waves up here. We need to see 3 waves down. Then we need to see another 5 waves up and another 3 waves down, followed by the final 5 waves. So lots of kind of things to talk about on the kind of larger time frames, but we need to see this correction first before we can have the confidence to come in and actually run this up much higher. Obviously, the weekly chart's looking very, very good. Flat correction, I think we can, you know, can't safely say just yet, but I'm inclined to say that this C wave that would normally come down a little bit lower than our A wave, I think has actually found a bit of stability just around here. So we have the A, B, C, the B going a little bit higher in an irregular kind of continuation pattern. But ultimately, we want to see this impulsive break to the upside and into new all-time highs, which actually completes our macro view of our 5th wave, right? As we kind of zoom on out here, you know, we've got these 5 waves that we've been tracking for, you know, well over a year. This continuation pattern, this zigzag, this expanding triangle, however you want to kind of articulate it, look at it, it basically needs to find its completion. We need to then start to get solid ground covered as we then start to talk about moving up into this final fifth wave where we see the end of the bull run. So overall, when we actually jump back down into our hourly, what do we think is likely to happen? Well, I think it's very probable that we are going to see a correction, and this correction is due on the daily chart. It's also due on the macro patterns, right? We obviously have, really good, strong foundation of Elliott wave, 5 impulsive moves on our weekly chart, translated down into our daily as well. We can see 5 waves up on our daily chart, and what we need to see is 3 waves down on that daily chart. On the hourly chart, it does indicate that we need to see some kind of healthy pullback. Obviously, there's a lot of volatility, lots of candles, lots of waves on the hourly chart. It can get very confusing and can get very complicated pretty fast. But the main thing to really do is, if you're very conscious or, I guess, worried about what is going on with Bitcoin and with the data, zoom on out, pay attention to the macro views. The macro views are the ones that actually matter. They are the trends that actually show you what is going on with the bigger picture and the longer term view. Only really if you're looking for good entry points or looking for exit points should you really go down lower than the daily chart. If you're a long-term hodler, stay focused on that daily, stay focused on that weekly chart. They are going to be guiding you long-term. If you're looking for accumulation and things like that, absolutely pay attention to these hourly points. They are going to show you where we think things are likely to go on the short term, where you might want to start thinking about dollar cost averaging, etc. Now, obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. I cannot offer you financial advice, but what I can do is read this data in the charts and present you what I think is most probable in the next few days, weeks and months to come. Guys, as we finish this video, if you found it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then do go ahead and subscribe. Tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you are going to be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.